shortly before the meeting, expressing that he was going to be half an hour late or so. But with a quorum of council members present, we're going to go ahead and get started with the Gardner City Council work session tonight, including but one item, which is to discuss the proposed fiscal year 2015 budget. This is a continuation from last meeting. Laura?
Good evening. This is just a short review of the governing body's directive to make changes to the previously proposed city administrator's budget. So I'll just start with reviewing very quickly the budget initiatives that were eliminated for 2015, and they're before you, but since people on the video can't read it, I'll go ahead and read it. Eliminated budgeted initiatives for 2015 budget were the Downtown District Plan for $50,000, 175th and I-35 Infrastructure Study for $50,000, Marketing and Rebranding for $50,000, the Parks Maintenance Building Study for $50,000, and the Youth Leadership Council for $35,000. The total amount of initiatives that were removed at the governing body's direction from the 2015 budget is $235,000. This next page is just it's not an analysis, it's actually just an illustration of how we calculated the mill reduction. The county clerk provides information every year for the city to use in calculating its mill levy. Their most recent estimated assessed valuation for the city is $136,034,109. So down where it says calculation for mill levy, you just merely take that, divide it by 1,000 to get the value of 1 mill. The budget reductions of $235,000 equate to $235,000 divided by the exact value of 1 mill as 1.728 mills. So the difference between the current general fund mill levy, 23,108, minus 1.728 equals 21.38. That is the new proposed mill levy for 2015. And then finally, this is how the fund balance looks. You'll see at the top, I summarized all this stuff where it just says revenues and expenditures, but taxes is what you have there, and that's all taxes. That number includes county and city sales tax also. That's not all property tax, but the line below in parentheses, meaning indicating a negative number, is your $235,000 mill reduction for 2015, and then inflated out, as we discussed before, in the same amounts that we were using for the projections. And your fund balance down below for 2015, it's actually rounded up to 30 instead of the 29 it said before, but it's essentially you reduced revenues and expenditures, so that didn't really change. And then 2016 on out, you can see in the later years it drops to, in 2018 it drops to 20, in 2019 it drops to 18%. I will say that staff has had numerous internal discussions about the need for more sophisticated modeling for revenue forecasting in the past. Actually, we've been talking about that since City Administrator Harrison Lake came here. But what we've done, I've done a little sensitivity analysis, and that confirms that revenues could, if we could forecast them even tighter, that would help. So we'll be working on identifying a better model to add continual improvement to our budgeting process, because as you know, we're continuing to make improvements to our budgeting process. Last year we implemented priority-based budgeting. This year we added in the cost allocation model. So next year we'll look at something different for revenue forecasting. So based on that, I would say the out-year projections, where it drops below what we were concerned about, since that's based on a model that could maybe be improved, I'll let you go from there. And that is all I have to say.
Okay. questions? I believe that this is very accurately portrays what we asked staff to bring back. I think that the funds available, the fund balance percentage at the end of the years doesn't slip below 20% until 2019, and something that Cheryl has talked to Laura about, and I've talked to Cheryl about, is tightening up the revenue projections, and we anticipate that getting better next year and in future budgets. But I think this accurately portrays what we tasked them to do, and I don't think we've got anything that's unreasonable in here. With that being said, is there discussion?
Well, I would agree. I've run the numbers myself, and it looks like it's there. Actually, that 18%, that's like 17.9. It gets rounded up to 18. This all assumes that on the out years we don't have any kind of modification to expenditures, that we continue to let them grow. And I'm not exactly sure where these projections are coming from. What's the baseline for these projections? Because I don't see anything. Obviously, we only get the 2015 line items for our budget discussion. So I was wondering where 16, 17, 18, and 19 come in.
Yeah, Laura, if you could explain about the placeholders and actually, Cheryl, if you feel like amplifying at any point because of your experience, that would be great.
Well, do you want me to go first, or would you like to? Okay, so anything beyond 2015 doesn't contain any detail.
Okay.
It's just we try, like the CAPERS formulas, we can kind of, when we had, the state was talking about raising those, we built those in the previous years. Of course, it's off now, but we built that stuff in, and if we know of something that we can specifically build into a placeholder, but other than that, those are largely what's in the budget today. There's some adjustments, treatment chemicals, but there's really nothing specific to look at other, just placeholder.
Well,
Because you can't just say, well, we're not going to have any expenditures.
Sure.
You have something in there.
Sure, but I mean, it would mean that for all intents and purposes, we simply don't know specific line items within the budget. We could say that
Not after 15.
These are kind of arbitrary numbers. We have some guesses. This is basically
Sure.
guesswork on our part as
Sure.
to what our expenditures will be.
Sure, it's you're right. Other than, it's the same thing with revenue projections. The only one that you make an assumption on all of them.
Right.
And they're placeholders
Yeah,
impacted by assumptions,
certainly.
which is the same thing you're doing in expenditures. Expenditures less so, because you don't really, build in anything. You don't build in a big revenue projection for an economic impact and then build in an expenditure one too. You don't do that.
So we could potentially, I'm pulling this out, knowing that we do need to decrease expenses in the out years from what these projections are, we could plug in a slightly lower number. Say we take across the board, 1.5% or 2% cut in those 4 budget years, and that would potentially affect our funds balances, would it not?
I could also do the same thing with revenues.
Well-
It could go in and increase, like this projection does not show the numbers that you used at your last analysis. I didn't increase 5%. If I did that, it never drops below 21%.
Certainly, but we can't control revenues. I mean, for all intents and purposes, the market controls revenues. We control our portion, which is the mill levy, but we don't control how many permits are being applied for, how many, people buy stuff at our stores, whether or not there's going to be new stores open, whether or not we're going to have additional large merchants coming to town. So we can control some of the small revenue streams, but not nearly all of them. I will argue we can control expenditures, and we kind of have an idea. I mean, I'm looking at last year's budget projections versus this year's budget projections, and they are significantly higher. For the 2016 year, for example, administration went up 42.3%.
Oh, okay,
And-
sir, that's